Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's second video of the day will be a wee update on the various Celtic players away on international duty, a wee update on the injury situation regarding some of Celtic's players, and also a brief mention of one of Celtic's players who is soon to be out of contract, and at this time there seems to be no active negotiations going on to renew his contract that expires next May, June. Before we do crack on with the video, please just, if you are new to the channel, not yet subscribed, please do click that subscriber button. Keep the numbers pushing up to 1050. That'd be a lovely reward, a little bonus for me for getting back to normal update duties once this international break is over. If you do like the video, please do click that like button. It does help with YouTube analytics and spreading the channel and spreading these videos to more fans. And comment section open for your own thoughts on Celtic issues and matters at the moment. So, several of Celtic's players have been away playing for their countries on international duty. There's been some mixed success for those players, starting with Liam Scales and Adam Idah. Scales has played both of Ireland's games against Finland and Greece. They won the first game 2-1, with Scales scoring his first international goal, but then lost their second game to Greece 2-0. Adam Idah had a brief substitute appearance against Finland, but did not get subbed on against Greece, which a lot of folk found rather surprising. It does appear that both Scales and Idah are, however, coming back from international duty fit with no new injuries, and so should be straight into training, I would guess, Wednesday. And so should be both fighting fit for the game against Aberdeen at the weekend. Arnie Engels was on the bench for Belgium against Italy in their 2-2 draw, but wasn't brought on. He'll have another game. I suspect that he'll probably be on the bench again, and hopefully that means he's going to be back also fully fit for the game against Aberdeen at the weekend. Dyson Maeda and Ryo Hatate have been on Japanese duty. Dyson Maeda came on as a late sub, but didn't score or create any chances. Ryo Hatate again was in the squad but didn't play. They have another game later tomorrow against Australia in the World Cup qualifiers, and then they'll be making their way back to Celtic for the game at the weekend. Hopefully both of them can come through injury-free. It would be nice to see both Maeda and Hatate getting some game time against Australia, as it does seem to be a heck of a long way for Ryo Hatate to go just to sit and watch his international teammates from the stands, not even get on as a sub or even be on the subs bench. However, that's up to the Japanese manager. Paulo Bernardo did have a successful game, leading the Portuguese under-21 side to a 3-1 away win against the Faroe Islands, and Paulo Bernardo scored the vital match-winning third goal for his team. Anthony Ralston played for Scotland in our disappointing 2-1 away loss in Croatia. I thought Ralston played pretty well, didn't have an awful lot to do. Primarily was in defence, didn't really get forward into midfield or attack very often, but I thought he defended pretty well. And as those who follow both Celtic and Scotland, it was your typical Scotland performance, full of hope, some nice touches, and some pretty poor finishing. It really shows the lack of anybody up front for Scotland at the moment. And the usual massive disappointment when VAR disallowed a goal, which was admittedly offside by a yard or so. however, was a bit disappointing, having had my hopes raised for a face-saving draw. It turned out to be a disappointing 2-1 loss again. Ralston, I suspect, will be playing again for Scotland in tomorrow's game against Portugal, which will be in Glasgow, and so he should also be back in training for Celtic for Wednesday in preparation for most likely being on the bench for the game against Aberdeen. Kasper Schmeichel had a disappointing game. He was at fault apparently for Spain's goal that beat Denmark 1-0. He'll be playing again before coming back to Celtic. Trusty has had a long trip to America. He was an unused sub on the bench for their 2-0 win against Panama. America have one more game, and then Trusty will be coming back to Glasgow, hopefully refreshed and free of jet lag in time for the game on Saturday. James Forrest was with the Scotland squad but got injured in training with the squad and now has returned to Celtic for treatment. And I would guess that he's going to be out of the Celtic squad for the weekend, which should open up more chances for Yang and Luis Palma to cover the two wide-out positions on the bench. James Forrest thus adds to our current injury list at the moment. It's thought that both Alistair Johnston and Cameron Carter-Vickers should be getting back into full training with Celtic this week in preparation for the game against Aberdeen on Saturday and then against Atalanta the following week in the Champions League, third game of the current 8-game campaign. Don't think there's any real doubts regarding Alistair Johnston being available for both games. It may be just a wee bit quick for Cameron Carter-Vickers to come into the team on Saturday against Aberdeen. Might depend on how well Austin Trusty comes back from American duty. Hopefully either Carter-Vickers or Trusty will be fit enough for the game against Aberdeen on Saturday. Otherwise, it's going to be either Mike Nawrocki or Stephen Welsh partnering Liam Scales in a very important game on Saturday against Aberdeen. Greg Taylor, some uncertainty as to how long his injury is going to keep him out. I would expect that he's going to be getting reassessed by the club, physios and doctors and coaches at the start of this week with a view to planning just how long he's going to require treatment and when he'll be back into first team contention. However, I am very hopeful that Alex Valley is going to get better and better after a slightly shaky first game. He's got, for me, better and better, and I think he actually could be our first choice left back for the rest of the season if the next 2 or 3 games go well for him. I think it's also quite significant that Celtic don't appear to be actively negotiating with Greg Taylor regarding Taylor's new contract. Taylor's contract will be expiring in May, June of 2025, and so just has 8 months or so left to go on his contract. There was thought to be some negotiations in the summer, but those appear to have gone in the back burner. And at the moment, it would appear that Greg Taylor, Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic team are not actively pursuing a new contract for Greg Taylor. I personally would be keen for Celtic to sign Greg Taylor for another 3 or 4 years. I think he's a good backup for at left back. I think he probably is just a level or two below what's needed for Champions League games. But for domestic games, I think he is more than a good left back and definitely a good backup left back for Celtic. And so I do hope that Celtic and Greg Taylor and his agents do get round the table and renegotiate an extension to his contract. There are some rumblings from various supposed Celtic insiders that Greg Taylor and Brendan Rodgers aren't currently on the best of relationships, although I haven't really seen any real evidence for that, and it appears to be more gossips and second-hand stories that have circulated and leaked into the press. We'll be watching out over the next 2 or 3 days just to see how well all the various different Celtic players are managing coming back from international duty, and how well the players such as Carter Vickers, Johnston, and even Greg Taylor are managing with training. And so just waiting for the last a few international games to be completed and all those players jetting back to Scotland. And I will do my best through the week to update you on how those last few international games go, and then around Wednesday, Thursday, start to preview the Saturday game against Aberdeen, which will happily be at 3 o'clock on Saturday, as Celtic have, for me, quite rightly, refused the offer from Premier Sports, which would have almost certainly ensured swapping the Aberdeen game to an 8 o'clock kickoff on Saturday evening, which wouldn't be good for Celtic fans, and also would be pretty awful for Aberdeen fans, making the game very, very expensive and difficult to attend, both for Celtic fans coming from far afield or from Aberdeen fans coming down from the north of Scotland. To finish off, just a wee polite reminder, encouragement for those new to the channel not yet subscribed, please do click that subscriber button, keep the numbers pushing up to 1,050. If you have liked the video, please do click that like button, and comment section open for pleasant, polite thoughts, opinions, debating points regarding how our players are doing on international duties and what your thoughts are for the Aberdeen game at the weekend, and any other Celtic related issues currently on your mind. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.